I first moved to Japan on a working holiday visa, which allowed me to stay in the country for 1 year and do pretty much anything I wanted. I was hoping to find a way to stay longer than just that 1 year, but I thought if it is just going to be a year, it would be kind of a waste to spend the whole thing in the city. So before moving to Tokyo, I decided to try the exact opposite of Tokyo life. I went to volunteer on an organic farm in Iwate Prefecture in northern Japan. I found this farm through the WWOOF program, which is a global volunteer organization that supports organic farms. June 2018, I arrive in Japan. I stay in Tokyo for a week, then get on the overnight bus north to Iwate Prefecture. I awoke the next morning in a very different city. No tall buildings, no big streets, no people around at all. I waited a long time for a very small train that took me to where I was picked up and taken to the farm. It was the height of summer, tail end of the rainy season, and I was amazed at how green and lush the scenery was. I don't want to say it was like an anime, but it was kind of like an anime. The farm produced a whole variety of vegetables, including rice and lots of tomatoes. They also raised pigs and chickens, the eggs from which were apparently sent to high-class restaurants in Tokyo, but I had them as part of my breakfast every day. In fact, all the food we ate was produced on the farm. That meant a lot of rice. So much rice that it's probably not good for your digestive system, but it was very good for the work that we were doing. We started work at 5 AM, worked through until 8 AM, then had a little break for breakfast, then worked a few more hours until the long lunch break over the hottest part of the day, then back to work until 6 PM. Yes, 5 AM to 6 PM. There was always plenty to do, because being an organic farm, a lot of work had to be done manually. For example, we'd wade into the rice fields and pull out the weeds by hand because we couldn't use herbicide. All the crops were also harvested by hand. Some of them looked quite spectacular. There was lots of digging, planting, ploughing, digging up potatoes, picking plums from trees. Waking up one day, I'd never know if I was going to go up a ladder or be down in the dirt. One less glamorous job I had to do a few times was go and pick up rocks out of a field so it could be ploughed. I had a bit of an existential moment at one point where I was standing in this dirt field all alone, picking up rocks and putting them in a sack, and I just thought, how did I get here? Like, what led me to this point? Yes, there was lots of time for thinking and introspection. Most mornings we had a meeting during which tasks for the day would be decided, but sometimes we also had lessons or discussions about farming and the organic way of life. A topic would be brought up for discussion, or we'd be shown a video and asked to comment on it. The meeting started by going around the table and asking for everyone's opinion, and then that was it. There was no dialogue after that, which I found very confusing at first, but later I realized this is Japanese work culture. I knew that in the Japanese workplace, debate is generally avoided in favor of listening to everyone's opinion and naturally reaching a consensus. It blew my mind when I realized that the same rules that govern a meeting in a boardroom in a glass skyscraper in Tokyo also applied to the dining table in this farmhouse in the mountains of North Japan. Is that culture shock? It might be culture shock. It wasn't all work though. I got to sightsee a bit, and Iwate Prefecture is full of traditions and folk history. On my first outing, I went to the town of Tono, which is the birthplace of many of Japan's folk tales. The Tono Monogatari, or Legends of Tono, is a famous compilation of those tales, and the whole town is themed around them. Especially Kappa, the river imp. You can see Kappa everywhere. You can even go fishing for Kappa with their favourite food, cucumbers. There's a folktale museum and a full-size replica of a traditional mountain village. I rented a bike to get to that village, and when I was cycling through the rice fields, beautiful green scenery, mountains on the horizon, perfect summer blue sky above, I felt so free. I'd never felt so free. It was awesome. Tono, highly recommended. It's a side of Japan that you would never see on the usual tourist route. The other place I got to see was Rikuzen Takata on the coast. One of the reasons that I'd chosen Iwate Prefecture specifically was I wanted to hear stories from people who had experienced the devastating earthquake and tsunami in March 2011. Rikuzen Takata had been completely washed away, and even though 7 years had passed since the tsunami, there was still nothing there, no town. It was just a big construction site with heavy machinery driving around. It was shocking. This is a place of real tragedy that's very much in living memory. There were stories of humanity to be found though, as everyone who lived through it said that they were well looked after in the evacuation centres, and people from the surrounding areas, and then the whole country jumped in to support. It's a harrowing story, and one that I don't feel equipped to tell in this video, but it ended with a glimmer of hope. Speaking of people in the area, there were all sorts of interesting characters who passed through the farm. There was a guy who had spent years traveling Japan, hopping from farm to farm on seasonal jobs in a journey that had taken him from Hokkaido down to Okinawa and everywhere in between. There was a woman who had learned how to farm here in Iwate, then gone to start her own farm down in southern Kyushu, and had come back to say thanks. There was a Belgian man in the village who had moved to the area from Tokyo to start a gardening business with his wife. You know how in Animal Crossing, most days are mostly the same, but you get random people passing through every now and then that keep it interesting? It felt exactly like that. For such an isolated place, there was such a variety of people and characters. Part of me really wishes I could have stayed longer to become part of the community. But in spite of all these interesting people, my lingering memory of my time in Iwate is one of loneliness. It was really hard being so isolated. To help keep track of the days, I wrote a Kanji Diary, where every day I would write one kanji character that represented something that happened or how I felt on that day. So here it is. On the first 3 days, you can see we've got the characters for nothingness, loneliness, and separation, just to give you an idea of how I was feeling at that time. Things did get a bit better after that. You can see we've got characters for sweetness, peach, cicada, and other things that I experienced. Well, we did have Wi-Fi on the farm. It was very limited, so I couldn't call anyone or watch videos. There was a week where the Wi-Fi was actually turned off, and I had never felt so offline or disconnected from the world. The language barrier wasn't that big of a deal because I'd self-studied Japanese for about 2 years before coming, so I could communicate well enough, aside from a few farm-related terms. There was a time when someone called on me to go and get the wheelbarrow, but I'd never learned the Japanese word for wheelbarrow, which is nekoguruma, which literally translates to cat car. So I was running around looking for the cat car until someone explained what a nekoguruma was. The real communication problems came from just being a bit of an outsider. I was also the only person my age, and everyone knew that I was only there temporarily as well. My hosts were very kind to set me up and take a lot of my needs and requests into consideration, but naturally work was first priority over hospitality. I'd look on Instagram stories and see videos of my friends in Tokyo having fun, and I'd get messages from them saying, "Hey, come back soon," and God, it hurt. I wanted to go back and see them so bad, but I wanted to see it through. I'd said I'd do 2 months on the farm. Ultimately, I left the farm a week earlier than planned. I had enough. But sticking to it that long and not quitting halfway was the right move. There was so much that I only got to experience because I had stayed for an extended period of time. In addition to everything that I listed here, I got to go to festivals and see fireworks and beautiful scenery. I got to play a big taiko drum. I got a tan and I put on some muscles, and I was probably the healthiest that I've ever been in my life. And I came back with memories and stories that are gonna stay with me forever. If I tried to stuff them all in one video, we'd be here all day. I'm going to share plenty more on this channel in the future, so please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, bye! Like and subscribe.